MAGA claims to hate DEI, even though they don't know what DEI really stands for. Trump said diversity, equity, and inclusion, so he knows the words, shockingly enough, but he doesn't know what the words mean in combination with each other and how we use them. So, Donald Trump, MAGA, we already talked about, Pete Hegseth and his, removal, trying to remove trans folks from the military. Then again, guess what? He's, again, using more identity politics than anybody on the left ever has, because he's looking at them and he's not seeing what their abilities are. He's judging them only on who they are, how they were born, and the fact that they're trans to make that decision. They could be the best soldier in the world, but if they're trans, he's going to get rid of them. That is identity politics right there. That is using people's identities to make decisions instead of trying to find the most qualified. The problem is, before we started having DEI in the initiatives and making sure that people had equity, making sure we had inclusion, people artificially chose only white men to do the job because they didn't trust anybody else to do the job, despite the fact that those other people could probably do the jobs better than many of the people that they were choosing to hire. Because when they call something identity politics, every conservative accusation is a confession. So, what's some examples of this week's, or maybe the end of last week's, Trump administration using identity politics? Turkish-American online streamer who was critical of Donald Trump, Hasan Piker, 2.8 million followers on Twitch, was detained Monday. He was questioned for hours a day earlier, despite being born in the U.S. and enrolled in Global Entry. Piker believes he was targeted because of his views, and Customs and Border Protection officers asked his opinion of Trump and Hamas, among other topics. He is frequently critical of Israel and the war on Gaza. The goal here is to put fear into people's hearts, he says, to have a chilling effect on speech. Piker recounted in detailed, nearly 40-minute-long account on his YouTube channel. The government is now officially willing and able to intimidate you for your speech. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment. Piker did not have a comment Tuesday on his Twitch stream a day earlier, according to a spokesperson. The hours-long broadcast on the live streaming platform included the same account posted to YouTube, along with Piker's commentary on other topics, and his speaking engagement, I guess, at the University of Chicago. So this is not, this is not them just randomly asking somebody or them picking somebody specifically because they thought he might be a terrorist. It's picking somebody who is a political opponent and detaining them and putting fear into their hearts in the hopes that it'll have a chilling effect, as he said, on other people's speech, to prevent other people from speaking out. How else is Donald Trump using identity politics to push his agenda? He has labeled South Africans, the Afrikaners, the white South Africans, that they should be given the refugee status under Executive Order 14204. And because he's alleging racial discrimination. And the resettlement program is described as P1, allows for the consideration of refugee claims from individuals of any nationality, especially those with compelling protection needs. Of course, the protection needs of these folks are not compelling. We'll get into that in a second. But P1, individual referrals, according to the Department of State, P1 allows for consideration of refugee claims from persons of any nationality, usually with compelling protection needs, for whom resettlement appears to be the appropriate, durable solution. P1 cases are identified and referred to USRAP by U.S. Embassy, UNHCR, or a designated non-governmental organization. UNHCR has historically referred the vast majority of P1 cases. However, USRAP will no longer accept referrals from UNHCR, except in the categories listed in this year's allocation in the presidential determination. Some NGOs providing humanitarian assistance in locations where there are large concentrations of refugees are eligible to provide P1 referrals, as U.S. ambassador may make a P1 referral for a person still in their country of origin if the ambassador determines that such cases are in need of exceptional treatment and the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security occurs. Now, the particular language from the executive order here is Section 4, refugee resettlement of other humanitarian conditions. The Secretary of State and Secretary of Homeland Security shall take appropriate steps consistent with law to prioritize humanitarian relief, including admission and resettlement through United States refugee admissions programs for Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. Such plan shall be submitted to the President through the Assistant to the President and Homeland Security Advisor. Are these people, these individuals being unfairly targeted because they're white South Africans? Or is there more to the story? As we would expect with anything pertaining to Donald Trump and what Donald Trump is doing, there's clearly always going to be more to the story. Historically, the 1913 Natives Land Act of South Africa. The land question goes back more than a century to that Natives Land Act, which provided a legislative form to process the dispossession of people's farms. So in 1913, they saw thousands of black families removed from their land by the apartheid government. The act became law on June 19th, 1913, limiting African land ownership to 7% and later 13% through the 1936 Native Trust and Land Act of South Africa. The act restricted black people from buying or occupying land. The apartheid government began the mass relocation of black people to poor homelands and to poorly planned and serviced townships. No longer able to provide for themselves and their families, people were forced to look for work far away from their homes. This marked the beginning of socioeconomic challenges in the country facing today, such as landlessness, poverty, and inequality. So here's the question I would ask any conservative who thinks that these white South Africans are being unfairly discriminated against because they are having their lands taken from them. Let's say we both had grandparents, I'm sure we all do. Let's say my grandfather stole a piece of artwork from your grandfather, right? Let's say that happened. And then you find out that I have possession of this artwork that is supposed to belong to your family, but it is now in my family. No, years have passed, decades have passed. Isn't it a role of government to help return that property to the original owner, or in this case, the family of the original owner, the family that should have possession of this artwork to begin with? I would think so. What about, like, another example? Let's say your grandfather had a briefcase full of money, and my grandfather took it and hid it away somewhere. And then it was determined that, oh, it's still in my property, it's still in my possession. We never opened it. Let's say we never knew what was in it. But let's say you now wanted to come after me to get that money that my grandfather stole from yours. It is a legitimate purpose of government to come and take that property that belonged to your family and take it from me and give it to you. Right? So if that's the case, if you can agree on both of those things, then why would you not agree that when the government of South Africa, the apartheid government, stole land from black families living in South Africa and gave it to white people, why would you then think that it would not be a legitimate purpose of government, a legitimate role of government, who was actually trying to act in a just and fair way to take the land back from the people who got the land with ill-gotten gains and return it to the families that originally owned the land? This is not discrimination against people because they're white. This is actions to restore the stolen property back to the black South Africans that should have never been taken in the first place had South Africa been run by a moral group of leaders. So you can't sit here and tell me that these people are being mistreated because they're being forced to give back the land they shouldn't have owned to begin with. But that's what these conservatives will claim. They'll claim, oh, you're stealing the white people's farms. No. You can't steal something that's been stolen from you. If you stole something or your family stole something and I take it back, that's not me stealing from you. That's me getting my property back. But these people don't see it that way because these people view any actions that are done, I guess, by white people as being okay. And Donald Trump wants more of those type of people in our country because he views that those are the types of people who are going to vote for him when they become citizens. So again, the often made claim that Democrats, liberals, progressives, etc. are bringing in all these migrants to the United States because we want them to vote. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have a fast track to vote, but Donald Trump sure as hell wants these people in this country so that they will support him. Because every conservative accusation is confession, because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. Now let's finish part one. Actually, we have two more things, I guess. Library of Congress firing because of DEI. Let's see what Carolyn Levitt had to say about the firing of the head of the Library of Congress.
Fired the Librarian of Congress. Why did he choose to do that?
We felt she did not fit the needs of the American people. There were quite concerning things that she had done at the Library of Congress in the pursuit of DEI and putting inappropriate books in the library for children, and we don't believe that she was serving the interests of the American taxpayer well, so she has been removed from her position, and the president is well within his rights to do that.
Put things in the library that were inappropriate for children. These idiots think that the Library of Congress is like the library that's down the street. The Library of Congress has a collection of over 178 million items, including millions of books, printed materials, manuscripts, maps, photographs, and other formats in over 470 languages. It includes significant collections of rare books, legal materials, music, and films. This isn't someplace where children can go and check out a book. But these idiots either A, believe that to be the case, or B, just want the poorly educated to believe that's the case. And, well, you know that's true because when Trump says jump, they'll say how high. These people really think that the Library of Congress is like a local branch of your library, and that the books that are being put in there that are inappropriate for children, the books that are being put in there are books that are made that so we can have a record of as many published things as possible. But these idiots don't understand that, or hope that you don't understand that, because they're either lying or they're stupid, and it's probably a little of column A and a little of column B. You ain't never had a friend like me. Do you agree with me, disagree with me on all these DEI things? Do you think that the Trump administration is just foolish and doesn't know these things, or are they just trying to fool everybody else in what they're doing? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. Unless you're a Nazi, have a good day.